Posted by you/the Machias. Me and a friend got stuck in another dimension. To begin, this happened roughly 3 weeks ago, while traveling back from Winnipeg to the PA, Manitoba, Canada. Me and a friend I'll call G, went to Winnipeg for the night/day, traveled there during the evening and came back the following day at 1 p.m. The way to Winnipeg was normal, took us 6 hours as usual. I've done this trip numerous times, as the PA is my hometown, which I've recently moved back to from Winnipeg. On the way back, the first 1/2 hours go by normally. I was driving the speed limit most of the time as it was icy plus snowing most of the time. So we come up to the turn off, where Highway 6 turns off onto the 60, at about 4 p.m. At this point the conditions are ideal, and the sun's just about at the horizon. It was a beautiful sky with a crimson sun. This is where things got really fucking strange. The first odd instance happened about 20 minutes on this highway. A red van overtook us right before a right turn and rounded a sharp bend. When we came around the bend, the van had vanished, and it was a long straight high for a bit. I thought this was weird, but I didn't pay any mind to it, nor did I mention it to my friend. Shortly after this I made a comment about how gorgeous the sky was. By this time its sun was just cresting the horizon at about 11 o'clock angle. By this time it's about 4 to 45, so we've been on the highway for 45 minutes. This highway take about an hour till you get to the next turn off, which is 10, the final turn off en route to the PA. We drive for the next 20 minutes without words, just the radio playing. Then my friend G made the comment, "Have you noticed there hasn't been any road signage?" I didn't realize, but there was no signs indicating when a turn was coming up, nor were there any signs in regards to how far we are from towns in kilometers, no signs whatsoever. At this point I noticed the sun hadn't moved an inch in the sky. On top of this, we haven't seen any other vehicle in a while. I thought this was fucking strange, man. So did my friend. Unnerved, I sped up, going between 120-140 kilometers per hour. I started having this overwhelming feeling something was fucking wrong. Then I noticed another anomaly among the other glaring things that are already making this experience really fucked up. All the trees were the same height, and the tree line was extremely dense, like a wall of trees. This was scary, cause I then realized the scenery was not at all what it should be. Where we were should have been a sparse tree line with small ponds and marshland on both sides of the highway. We've been on this highway now for 2 hours now, the sun still hasn't moved, still no road signs, no traffic, and we're not where we should be. Me and G are stuck on this highway and we're starting to get scared, trying to piece together and figure out what the fuck is happening. We've both lived our fair share of paranormal phenomena, not to mention traumatic experiences at that. I've known G my whole life, and this experience is undeniably our most terrifying. Out of nowhere, the sun sets unnaturally fast, which takes maybe 2 minutes. We are enveloped in this darkness of a starless night without a moon. I am scared. G is scared. Two 25-year-old men pretty well shaken, and just when this ominous, oppressive feeling was unbearable, we come to the turn off, out of nowhere. 3 hours we were stuck on that fucking highway that takes barely over an hour to travel. But it didn't end there. Just when I thought we were returning to normality, I glance in the rearview mirror, cause I thought for the first time in 3 hours I'd seen headlights. I was wrong. In the back seat sitting behind me on the driver's side was a black human silhouette with glowing yellow eyes. G and I both saw it. I couldn't believe what we were experiencing. All of what happened is so unreal and so fantastical sounding, but on my life I pro.rise what you've read is real and articulated to the best of my ability. The next hour and a half were terrifying and mostly set in silence. We finally pulled into the PA shortly before midnight. We were stuck 2.5 hours in some sorts of limbo with unreal anomalies that made no sense, and were totally conscious and aware the whole time, making note of the time. We are totally lost on an explanation of what happened. I'm posting for any answers or relation of similar experience. Posted by you/GHayer04. I swear I had busted my knuckle open, but when I looked down it was completely fine. So I know it's not the most interesting glitch, but this legitimately has me thinking I had just been through an altered reality. I had went to boxing about an hour prior to the incident, and I'd noticed that my middle knuckle on my right hand had been getting really red recently since the last few times I went. I wear hand wraps but had been putting more power into my punches on the bag recently. So I'm just walking around half an hour after showering and have my clothes on when my mom calls me to her room to grab some clothes she'd ironed. These clothes had been sitting out and were not warm. I explained this story to my friends and they kept insisting that the clothes must have been freshly ironed, but they had been sitting there for at least 15 minutes. So as I got to pick up the pile of shirts, I whack my knuckle against the ironing board and instantly feel a lot of pain and do that thing where you run around. In this case I ran out the room, and jump around for a second to relieve yourself of the pain. As I walk back into the room with clothes on my arm, my knuckle really starts to sting and I swear down that I felt blood pouring out of my knuckle. But I was holding the pile of clothes on top of my crossed arms so I couldn't visibly see anything. Now, I have a history over fainting the odd time, but they're never a consistent trigger. It can be anything from a little cut to a time when I got hit by a frisbee thrown at me slashing my eyebrow. So I told my mom that I think I'm going to faint, so I should go to my dad because I'm sure he's busted a knuckle before, and because I knew there was pop, which of course ended up being sugar-free Fresca. So I'm blacking R as I'm walking to the couch and my dad's talking to me calmly while getting me to keep my blood flowing, and I feel the blood on my hand keep going. After around 7 to 8 minutes of this, my dad said he'd take a quick look and started laughing. I figured it was just a way to trick into thinking there was nothing there as he's done it before. But then he told me to look for myself and there was nothing there and my hand felt dry. Now I don't believe in the supernatural per se, but I've had and heard a few weird experiences myself, but I swear to God my knuckle was busted open but was suddenly healed, or some shit, or somehow had never happened. I was so confused and shocked and didn't even feel stupid because of how entirely sure I was that it had been bleeding. Again, it's not the most interesting story, but the thing is it was so real to me, and I've fainted many times and know what it's like to have a cut and feel blood running out of your body. Posted by you/redcarrot33. Dog we never had. My parents have always had dogs growing up, our house just wasn't a home without one. A few weeks ago me and my mum were reminiscing over past pets over a glass of wine. I'm 26 now, and I asked about the white bull terrier called Sammy we had when I was young, 5/6 years old, saying I always thought he was a funny looking dog because of his flat face. My mum looked so confused, adamant we never had that type of dog ever, we'd had mutts from rescue centers. So I asked my dad, as I have very vivid memories of me and my dad walking Sammy on the field regularly. He had no idea what I was talking about. No biggie, maybe my childhood brain had an imaginary dog friend, right? Until I spoke to an old family friend who remembered this dog and called him Sammy Oswell. So who knows if we ever had that dog, but it's strange that there's no pictures, dog collars or anything. Just for reference, my mum's very sentimental and keeps all our old dog collars and ashes from when they're cremated, and there's no Sammy collar or ashes. So Sammy from possibly an alternate universe. From what I remember, I want to say, who's a good boy? You are.